Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
Good morning and welcome to this week's National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana. I'm your co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine, here with your host, Mr. Lee Martin, and a guest today, Mr. Michael Hardin. And Lee, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very fine, Florence, and how are you doing? And
I'm doing excellent.
okay, so I do want to just thank you, give you congratulations here for all the hard work that you've been doing while you're over there at Martin University, and continuing to impress us all with being placed on the president's list and the dean's list for each period that you've been there. So congratulations to you.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yes, and today we have Mr. Michael Hardin. And Michael, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. We're thankful to have you on our show today, and we're going to get right to it. So Michael, we're going to talk a little bit about NFB Newsline, and I'm going to throw that right back to you, Florence.
All right, and Michael, now you are a subscriber to NFB Newsline, and tell us a little bit about Newsline. What's your favorites?
Well, I like to get on NFB Newsline, and it's my way of being able to read Indy Star. Since I lost my vision, that was one of the things that I wasn't able to do. So I always enjoyed reading the paper. So with NFB Newsline, I'm able to listen to the different segments of the Indy Star, and I also go through the different magazines, and one of my favorites is like the Men's Health on there, and just different things like that.
Wow. So what device do you use to access the service? I know we have a myriad of devices. Which one do you use?
I actually just use my home phone. So I can either dial in from my home phone or my cell phone.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Florence.
You know what I like about NFB Newsline, it gives us an opportunity to read newspapers, magazines, sell circulars. It basically opens the world up to us who are blind. And there's a various ways, as Lee mentioned, to access NFB Newsline. I use an iPhone, so I download the NFB Newsline app. We also use what I like to call the A-Lady. And another way is the Victor Reader Stream. There's a digital player from the Talking Book and Braille Library. And let me make sure there's, and as you mentioned, basically it is, the Android phone as well as the home phone. So we can access this free audio information service in various ways. Now, I particularly like reading newspapers and magazines. I branched out more so to the Indianapolis Recorder, which I really enjoy reading. And Lee, what's your preference?
Yes, I mean, that's just a multitude of information there about the service. And one of the other areas, there's so many other areas that the NFB Newsline offers. Once again, it is a free audio information service. And there are several other things that we offer. One of the things is the latest device that we offer with the Apple app is the KNFB Basic Reader. And this allows individuals that are blind or print challenged to take a snapshot of your mail or of a printed document. that you want to independently read on your own. You can also save that information to the iPhone. So that's a great tool to use. It's a great addition to more than just reading the different publications. So now you have that option. And once again, that option is free. So I would say take a full advantage of it because it just helps increase your independence. We also have TV guide listings, which is very popular. Individuals love putting in their provider as well as their area code, and that way you'll be able to make your profile on your TV guide listings, and you can find out what shows are on and all that. It makes it very simple. You can also access your publications with the Target circular as well as the Walmart circulars. And for many of us that are looking for jobs, you can use that job search feature. The job search feature has over 200,000 jobs. It's easy to create your profile anywhere in the country. And if you're not looking for a job and you have a spouse or siblings that are looking for work, you can help them look for work as well. So there's a multitude of devices that you can use as well as publications. We have publications for everybody, children, adults, youth, seniors, and veterans. So there's so much to use. So if you just watch our commercials, keep up with what we're doing, please give us a call, and we look forward to addressing your call.
I just graduated college as a blind student. How can I independently find job listings?
Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
It is a fantastic service.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
Welcome back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana. And as mentioned, we have our special guest, Mr. Michael Hardin. And Michael, again, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And Michael, tell us a little bit about you. Are you originally from Indianapolis area?
Yes, ma'am. I grew up around the 23rd and Carrollton area. I attended Indianapolis Public Schools, went to School 56, 110, and for, I guess 110 was about the end of my schooling because I had a pretty crazy childhood. I mean, my parents, they taught me right from wrong, but I kind of took a different route for a minute, in which landed me in and out of juvenile a multitude of times. I ended up in boys' school 3 times, and before you know it, I was growing up, and I was like dealing with probation and stuff like that, and I ended up in the like Marion County as an adult, like right at like 17. So by the time I was 18, I was a convicted felon, and I was just like, something's got to change because I spent my whole childhood in and out, and I ended up having my oldest daughter, which I have 3 children. And from there, I just wanted to make a change because, like I said, I was tired of the in and out, being locked up. So I eventually decided to attend the Fathers and Family program and started getting, they taught me how to do like interviewing techniques and things of that sort. And I worked various of dead end jobs in which I had my son at the time. So I was just working a lot of dead end jobs. And by the time I had my youngest daughter, I was like, I want something a little more steady. So I decided to go to Lincoln Tech, where I graduated from there as a diesel mechanic. I got hired out of school. So as I was still attending, like 6 months into going to Lincoln Tech, I was working in my field. And from there, I had a very promising career. My life had turned around. Everything was going good. I had like 4 or 5 cars. Um, just everything was going well for me. And just out of nowhere, one day I was at the shop working as a diesel mechanic, and I had um, when I woke up, I had like a spot over my right eye, and I just thought I was tired because I was going real hard. I was working 14-hour days, and throughout that whole week, that spot was on my eye. So at the end of the week, I told my foreman that I was going to go to the hospital because something was wrong with my eye. So when I left work that night, I decided, went home, had dinner with the family, and I was just expecting to just go in and come right back out. But I ended up being in the hospital for about a week, and they had said I had inflammation on my optic nerve, and I just couldn't believe what was going on. And it's like my vision loss within like 30 days. It had just like gotten to the point where I could barely see. And I couldn't believe it because I was like just on the highway, like driving in my vehicle. So I was like, how did this happen so instantaneously? And they were like, well, it really didn't happen instantaneously. It was something that was probably going on and you didn't know. So I had the optic nerve damage, in which that last day at work, that was pretty much the last day that I worked as a diesel mechanic. And I ended up just from there going into like depression and isolation. I felt like I was pretty much had let my kids down. It was just a total change because I couldn't drive. Like things had started to get so bad. One day I was driving my 2014 Chrysler 300, and I didn't know it, but I was on like a 2-lane road, and I was kind of on the right side. And as I was driving, I had like popped up on the sidewalk because I had started to lose. It began like losing all of my peripheral vision. So it was just a total change that I wasn't ready for.
Well, my,
And
mm,
okay.
sorry to interrupt you, sir, but that that is such a compelling reality for you, because many of us that I have, many people we have interviewed and spoke with have shared some of the same realities as we have had sight. We've been blessed to have sight and then to lose it. Florence, when you say that's pretty dramatic, and he has to be commended for from whence he came, from the juvenile systems, um, through being charged as an adult and turning your life around. Now, this family, well, fathers and family. How did you contact them? How did you hear about them?
Well, at the time, they were like running a whole bunch of commercials on TV, and I came across their commercial, and from there, I ended up going in and I met with Dr. Wallace. I believe that's his name, if I remember correctly. But I went in and met with them, and next thing you know, I went through their program, and they taught me a lot of good things. So, yes.
Yeah, I can hear the love of your family in there, and how being a father and being, you know, wanting to be the greatest father of, and is the greatest father to your children, that, you know, that's commendable to be confronted with such a life-changing issue. Because I know with me and most other people, don't know if you recall the old Maxwell House coffee commercial. It would always say good to the last drop. Well,
Right.
many of us, like you, try to drive with just as little sight as we got. We try to drive to the last drop of sight, and that can be
Right.
dangerous, you know. So individuals that are having sight issues, please get your checkup. And Florence, what would you say to that?
Well, you know, I've got a lot to say, actually, and I know that we don't have that much time on this segment to talk about it. But Mike, you know, I've heard so much in your conversation, and one of the things that really stood out to me was you mentioned at the birth of your oldest child how um, how you wanted to make a change, and that tells a lot about you as an individual, as a man, because a lot of times a man will say, you know what, I have done this my way, but now I am doing this for someone else. And I commend you for you know, for what you have done. And I do know that um, despite this journey of darkness, there is always that light at the end of the tunnel. And I commend you for what, you know, for your direction. And I know that this story is to continue on in our next segment.
Yes,
And
we're going to
thank you
take.
for sharing with us,
Yes,
Michael.
yes,
Yes,
Michael,
ma'am.
appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
we're going to take a short pause, and we'll be right back with Mr. Michael Hardin and his reality from triumphs, going trials to triumphs with Michael Hardin. We'll be right back.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I use NFB Newsline when reading Hammond Northwest Times.
Using NFB Newsline, I read the Christian Science magazine.
Dad, you read Jerusalem Post too.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Live the life you want. Read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
Welcome back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind, Newsline Indiana. And Michael, we have just spoken about your transition into blindness. However, what age were you when you were declared legally blind, Michael?
So up until this last point I was speaking about, like my last day of work, I was 31 at the time. So it started then, but up until I believe I was actually 32 when I was like, I had to accept reality that I was blind and like my vision was gone, because originally it had started in just my right eye, and then it went over into my left eye. So both of my eyes, I had started to just lose the visual field. So by 32, all I had was just light perception in one eye.
And how long ago has that been for you?
Well, I'll be 35 years old here on June the 18th. So it's been about 3 years, a little over.
So during this time frame, you decided you had to make a decision whether he's going to lay down or whether he's going to give into it or whether he's going to try to make a change. So when you start making that change and pulling your bootstraps up and pulling yourself back up into a sense of reality, a new sense of reality, where did you start? how did that come about? How did you get the motivation? Where did it come from?
Well, I had looked up and I had not noticed that how much isolation that I had put myself in. And I sat around and thought, like, it's been weeks since I even left out of the house because I wasn't comfortable leaving, being that I couldn't see anything. So I spent lot of time like that. And I had a real bad point where I had went into major depression and I just felt like life was over. So I had became like suicidal. And I never had thought that I would get to that point, being that I was just a diesel mechanic with a promising career. And now all of a sudden I had no vision. And from me having this point of being in that suicidal moment and it almost actually happened, that was my point where I said, I need to just accept it and go and get the help that's being offered to me. That way I can just begin to live life again. So from there, I ended up going to Bosma. They taught me different things like how to use a computer again, cane travel. And I also was introduced to the National Federation of the Blind Circle City chapter. I kind of leaned on them to be around like-minded people like myself. And I just was able to grasp on and just accept it that life isn't over just because you can't see.
That's it. And it sounds like you maintain the vision, Michael. You know, I'm gonna share something quickly with you in that vision. A young woman, Helen Keller, once said, "What's worse than being blind is being sighted with no vision." And it sounds like even though you had those trials, you have found your way into a triumph, into realizing that life is still worth living and that we can still achieve the things that we would like to do. We may do things differently, but we can get it done. And so with your going to Bosma and finding these other resources that were working for you, it sounds like you have found some light in blindness. And Michael, now you mentioned your children, and you mentioned being a diesel mechanic before. Now, what vision do you have now, and what's going on in your life?
Well, at this point, I have I had an intuition to return back to college because I'm just was like, well, I want to put my mind towards something that could keep me busy. And so I started to apply to different colleges, and there was a lot of resources that didn't work out for me. But however, I was able to apply for the Nina Mason Podium, and I received this scholarship probably about 2 weeks ago. So I'll be starting school here fall of 2021.
Well, what a great change of events for you. Like you told me, a change in your life once again. I mean, you've gone through so many different changes, and to be able to secure such a scholarship after having difficulties with other resources that should be available for you, but they're not as resourceful. And you did not stop. You did not quit. And we just want to commend you for that. I mean, there's the future is still yours, and you are very inspirational. And we're going to take a short pause, and we're going to come back with the conclusion of our show. And, we may have you come back at some point in time too, Michael, because there is so much more, so very much more to share. So we're going to take a short pause, and we'll be right back with the National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana.
Thousands of Indiana residents feel isolated from the world due to vision problems. Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm blind. I read Stars and Stripes on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
Welcome back to the conclusion of our show, and we've been speaking with Michael Hardin. And Michael, congratulations on your scholarship.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you would like to leave with our listening and viewing audience?
I would just say, be true to yourself, resort back to your faith and never give up. And just try to stay busy because an idle mind is the devil's playground.
Well, Michael, we here at the show and station want to thank you once again for coming on. You're a very encouraging individual, not only to your family, a great example to many people that are having different triumphs and they can overcome and see the light at the end of the tunnel and prepare themselves for many, many more triumphs. You're a young man, young family. We here at the National Federation of the Blind will be right there working with you. And there's a lot of agencies and resources. So we just want to say, thank you for coming on to our show and being so open and candid. And just to realize that in the community that you come from, where you don't have a whole lot, and you have a lot of challenges, that's what you have, but you overcome. And there is life after blindness. So thank you. And once again, to our viewing and listening audience, thank you. And we'll look forward to you hearing us again on our next show. Take good care and God bless.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.